Today we're going to peel back the canvas on one of art's most fascinating and, let's be honest, mysterious figures, Edvard Munch. You definitely know his most famous painting, but the story behind the man who made it? Well, it's every bit as haunting and powerful. Let's get into it.
The scream. I mean, you've seen it everywhere, right? On posters, in movies, it's even an emoji. It's become this universal symbol for anxiety, a silent howl that somehow we all just get. It hits you on a deep level. And that's the real question, isn't it? Because an image this powerful wasn't just invented out of thin air. It was lived. So to really understand the art, we got to understand the anguish, the tragedy, and the absolutely incredible life of the man behind it. Okay, so let's start with the masterpiece itself, because the story behind this painting isn't just about some general feeling of dread. No, it's about a very specific and very real, terrifying moment that changed art forever.
So get this whole scene wasn't just a fantasy. Munch himself wrote about it. He was taking a walk with a couple of friends when suddenly the sky turned this shocking blood-red color. He said he felt an infinite scream passing through nature. And here's a wild fact. Some scientists think that crazy sky was actually caused by the 1883 eruption of Krakatoa, all the way on the other side of the planet.
Now here's something a lot of people don't realize. The scream isn't just one painting. Munch was kind of obsessed with this image, so he made multiple versions. And that fame, of course, made them a target. Two of the versions were actually stolen in 1994 and again in 2004. But don't worry, both were eventually found.
But to really, truly get where that scream came from, we need to go back, way back, to the very beginning of Munch's life. A childhood that was defined by a level of tragedy that is just hard to believe.
Munch wrote these words himself, and they just perfectly nail the feeling of his early life. You know, this wasn't some kind of artistic exaggeration. He was being literal. This was his reality, and these black angels would follow him and his art for the rest of his life.
Just look at this timeline. It's devastating. He lost his mom to tuberculosis when he was only 5 years old. Then, when he's just 14, his favorite sister, Sophie, dies from the exact same disease. That constant presence of death so early on, well, it became the defining trauma of his life. And, not surprisingly, a central theme in almost everything he created.
And as Munch became a man, you might hope things would get better. But they didn't. The chaos just kept going. His relationships were incredibly intense, often tormented, and they pretty much always ended in disaster, which, of course, just gave him more darkness to pour into his work. And you can see that turmoil so clearly in his art. In paintings like Vampire, love isn't some comforting, beautiful thing. For Munch, it was dangerous, almost like something that could literally drain the life from you. And his view came straight from his own life, especially one affair that was particularly destructive. I mean, this story is just wild. The chaos with his relationships really peaked during a fight with his lover, Tula Larsen. They're struggling over a revolver and it goes off. Munch shoots himself in the hand, shattering one of his fingers. It's like all that emotional violence that had been swirling around him his whole life suddenly became painfully physical.
Eventually, it all just became too much. The years of emotional turmoil, the heavy drinking, all that deep trauma from his childhood, it led to a complete psychological collapse. In 1908, Munch actually checked himself into a clinic where he even received electroshock therapy.
But here's the thing about Munch. He was so much more than just his personal demons. He was a true innovator with this grand, sweeping vision for his art. And he had some, well, let's call them highly unconventional methods for making it. He didn't really see his paintings as individual pieces. To him, they were all connected, like chapters in one giant, epic story about being human. He called it the frieze of life, and it was meant to explore everything: love, fear, birth, death, the whole shebang. And about those unconventional methods, sometimes he would deliberately leave his finished paintings outside, in the rain and snow. He called this his horse treatment, and he thought it would toughen them up. I'm pretty sure modern art curators would have an absolute heart attack if they heard that. Here's another fascinating little twist for you. Munch was basically one of the godfathers of the selfie. Seriously, decades before it was a thing, he was constantly taking self-portraits at arm's length. He seemed obsessed with documenting his own life, his own face, and even his own decline. 82. This number represents a really dark chapter in his later years. When the Nazis occupied Norway, they declared his work to be degenerate art. They confiscated 82 of his pieces from German museums. For years, Munch lived in fear that his entire life's work would just be wiped out. And yet, after all of that darkness, a lifetime of it really,
Munch's final act was one of incredible light and generosity. He made sure that the world would be able to see and learn from his long and painful journey. Just look at the sheer scale of this. When he died, he left his entire artistic estate, everything he had left, to the city of Oslo. We're talking over 1,000 paintings, more than 15,000 prints, thousands of drawings. It was one of the single largest gifts ever given by an artist, and it's the foundation of the Munch Museum today.
And so, here we are, back where we started. But now, when you look at it, it feels different, doesn't it? The Scream isn't just a picture of panic anymore. It's the culmination of everything. A life defined by death, madness, and destructive love. It really is the echo of Edvard Munch's entire existence, all concentrated in one timeless image.
You know, it really makes you think. Munch channeled a whole lifetime of pain into something that still resonates with people more than a century later. It's a powerful reminder, I think, that even from our deepest, most personal struggles, something universal can emerge, something that might just last forever.